Okay, so back in November, I spent a weekend canvassing for a certain presidential candidate in Las Vegas, sending me zigzagging all over the city.
Doing this entirely on transit, I was shocked to find that Sin City's RTC punches way above its weight, with frequent and reliable service taming the car-dependent sprawl. So it might surprise you that into the 90s, Vegas buses were operated by a dying private company so dysfunctional it was nicknamed the worst transit system in America, with only 16 peak service vehicles operating outside the Strip for a region of 900,000. Then, in 1992, the local MPO took over, growing the fleet from 50 buses to over 400. This is the story of how Vegas built a 160,000 daily ride transit system from square zero in one of the most transit-hostile cities in the world.
And don't worry, there won't be any mention of this or this.
You already know that in the 50s and 60s, America's private transit systems were collapsing thanks to At the same time, labor costs were increasing thanks to the Baumol effect. This is when some industries like mining and manufacturing become more labor efficient, driving up wages even in industries that are still labor intensive. And since you can't get someone to drive more than one bus, rising labor costs put transit at an even greater disadvantage to its car-based competition. In response, state and local governments began taking over transit systems, bankrolled by the Urban Mass Transportation Act of 1965. But at that point, Vegas was in no hurry to seize the means of transportation. That's because at first, the tourism and service-based economy partially shielded LVT from the Baumol effect, keeping labor costs low. On top of that, the Las Vegas Strip provided a sort of infinite ridership hack. It's dense, linear, frustrating to drive on, and most importantly, tourists and workers are moving in a constant bidirectional flow at all hours, meaning there's no need for expensive peak service. As the off-strip routes started losing money in the 70s, the Strip buses allowed LVT to subsidize their losses.
Okay, but why though? Why not just cut the money-losing routes and become a Strip-only tourist shuttle?
Well, in the 40s, Vegas gave LVT an exclusive franchise agreement for the city's intra-city transit. Decades later, their profitable Strip route enjoyed a de facto state-sanctioned monopoly as long as LVT kept operating a performative skeletal transit system. And it really was just performative. By the 1980s, the city routes saw all-day headways of 60 to 90 minutes, and thanks to the limited fleet, pole reliefs weren't possible, so riders had to deal with 1-hour gaps in service 3 times a day, twice for breaks and once for refueling. And since the network was a radial system, these gaps would leave riders stranded downtown for an hour. According to an EPA report from the 70s, LVT tried introducing crosstown service in 1974, but since they lacked the frequency for an effective grid system, the switch only reduced ridership further, forcing them to switch back to a radial system the next year. And as Vegas sprawled outward, these routes only became more circuitous. By 1980, Vegas was the only major city in the country still reliant on an unsubsidized, privately owned transit system. The only help they received was from the city, which helped them purchase new buses using federal grants. Now, I'm sure young Randall O'Toole was beaming with pride, but city leaders like Councilman and later Mayor Ron Lurie were furious at their city's transit impotence. Vegas was finally ready to pay up. The problem was that the city boundaries look like this. There's no way the people in this arbitrary rectangle were about to shoulder the tax burden for the whole region's transit system. But Clark County couldn't step in either, because at the time, Nevada County Taxation Authority was tightly controlled by the state, which itself was controlled by arch-libertarians.
Okay, so I found these Nevada state legislature minutes from 1981, where basically this Vegas taxi company is asking for some regulatory changes so they can set up a minibus system. Now, the plan never materialized, but if you just look at these letters of support asking the state to take action on transit, we've got the mayor, city council, police, UNLV, unions, Clark County Republicans. The Republicans?
But the assembly still said no, so transit advocates tried a new strategy. In 1983, they got the state to authorize the RTC, Las Vegas's MPO, to operate a transit system themselves. Then, they got a June 1983 ballot question printed asking Clark County voters for a 0.25% sales tax to double the bus fleet and expand LVT from 11 routes to 20. It suffered a devastating 3-1 defeat. But no one was surprised.
Just for a snapshot, this is a 1984 interview with an LVT rider.
We can ride a bus for 35 cents in Denver, but you have to remember, we pay the difference with sales tax, and then they can keep on running buses nobody rides. You're better off here, because they'll try to run the buses where the profit is.
This is like a pitch for Reason magazine. Like, this person is on the bus.
RTC's managing engineer blamed, quote, the marriage of people to their vehicles and the fact that we have free parking through the community. So yes, it was looking very bleak, but the transit advocates didn't give up. They refocused on getting the city to build LVT, a sheltered downtown transfer center, in 1987. And then in 1990, County Commissioner Bruce Woodbury came up with a plan to trick the voters into finally funding transit. The tried and true method was, of course, mixing the transit money with highway money. In fact, on question 10 of the 1990 Clark County ballot, the planned bus system wasn't even mentioned. It was the widely hyped Las Vegas Beltway project that bagged the 64% victory. Details aside, the state approved a 0.25% sales tax, and Vegas finally had a transit future. But LVT wouldn't be part of it. In 1990, the city revoked LVT's franchise agreement, letting the RTC's new bus system operate on the Strip. When LVT general manager Barry Perea found out, he made this exact facial expression and sued. But the lawsuit failed, and later negotiations broke down. The new system, called Citizens Area Transit, started its engines on November 16, 1992. And by May, LVT and its employees were rolled into CAT. In an interview for the 2004 book Sun, Sin, and Suburbia, Barry Perea was shockingly zen about the whole thing. He said, "It had to be done, no doubt about it. I'd hate to think where the city would be today without CAT."
Oh, there you are. We're waiting for CAT. You know the bus. Citizens Area Transit. Come on, let's go. Riding CAT is simple and easy on the wallet. $1, one way. Less if you buy CAT coins. Or use your CAT pass, like Lisa. See? Look at all the arrows. CAT pass. Easy and convenient. And there are discounts if you're a senior, like my bud Lenny. Say hi, Lenny.
Hi.
And if you've got these, you've got the world of CAT in your hands. CAT. It's you? It's me. It's Southern Nevada.
Instead of employing operations staff directly, RTC opted to contract out operations to ATC, a company already running buses in Phoenix and Reno. Governments gave them high marks, despite the drivers' union warning about their bad labor practices. It was a rocky start, with frequent schedule changes and 2 bus network redesigns in the first year. But with so much pent-up demand for transit, CAT's ridership rise was meteoric. In just its first year, CAT carried 14.9 million rides, where LVT had never cracked 5 million, and ATC had projected just 8 million. To keep up with demand, they immediately ordered 90 40-foot New Flyer buses and spent the next 3 years building a large articulated fleet as ridership kept surging. In 1997, APTA gave them the Outstanding Achievement Award. But the drivers, who were making the modern equivalent of $16 to $25 an hour, didn't think their employer ATC Vancom was so outstanding at all. On May 20th, after 7 months of negotiations, ATU 1637 voted to strike, costing RTC $30,000 a day in fares. But as the strike dragged on, ATC Vancom was able to get more and more service running again, with new hires and strikebreakers from neighboring transit systems, gaining the upper hand. On June 28th, the union went back to work with a modern equivalent raise of $4.90. Despite this lovely apology note they put out, ridership was slow to recover. CAT needed a new direction, and that direction was BRT. CAT upgraded its first route to BRT in 2004 from downtown to Nellis Air Force Base, rebranding it as the MAX. It had all the usual BRT stuff, but the real head-turner was the new French-built Iris bus Civis. Controversial because these buses came from the freedom-hating, Saddam Hussein-loving nation of France. They were equipped with a unique optical guidance system that would automatically snuggle the bus up within a centimeter of the platform. Tragically, it didn't work, and CAT shut it off within a year. But the other improvements slashed travel times by up to half and boosted ridership by 25% in the first year, kicking off a BRT spree fueled by Obama recovery cash. In 2010, the renamed RTC Transit opened center-running BRT connecting downtown to the Strip, now served by the famous double-decker Deuce buses. They also built side-running BRT on Boulder Highway and a bigger, better-located terminal. In 2012, they opened bus lanes down Sahara Avenue, their second busiest crosstown route, but stopped short of full stop consolidation. By then, ridership on their original Nellis Express was lagging its local sister route, forcing a reversion back to all local in 2016. But it wasn't that strong of a corridor to begin with. The real crown jewel is Maryland Parkway. It's the busiest bus corridor outside the Strip, serving the airport, downtown, UNLV, and the region's biggest hospital. So blessed is this corridor that RTC was even considering rail, which they of course backed down from, but last summer they broke ground on what will become 7.3 miles of bus lanes and boarding platforms in a ceremony featuring Pete Buttigieg. When it's finished in 2026, it'll become a central spine, linking up all 7 of the other frequent routes.
Now, does Las Vegas have an incoherent, often dysfunctional, maybe dystopian approach to transportation planning? Yes. But see, that's why City Nerd exists. We're the optimism channel.
RTC proves that even if your city is a 20-mile wide disk of stroads and subdivisions, your state government hates transit, and your existing network is functionally non-existent, you can still build a network that brings minimum half-hourly service to the whole city and connects all your core job centers with frequent, high-quality transit.
So quit the excuses, Tampa.
Hi there! So if you managed to sit through that entire video, that means you're basically the exact target audience for our 2 transit planning courses taught by Jarrett Walker. So the first one is just an overview of transit service planning, and the second one is a deep dive into how we can design cities to be more transit friendly. If you take the course, you'll get AICP credits, and with the subscription, you'll get access to hundreds of other courses taught by planning professionals. So, click the thing down in the thing and check it out.